Ladies and gentlemen, it's the end of 2025, and with that comes my top 5 books of the year video. So hopefully you guys find something fun, interesting to read in the new year. And without further ado, let's showcase these 5 books. So this year, I read 20 books. If I was going to do a top 10, that really wouldn't make any sense because half of the books have been on the list. So we have to limit it to 5. Number 5 on the list is Cujo by Stephen King. This book centers around 2 families in Castle Rock, and they have to go under the trials and tribulations of the dog Cujo, who is rabies infested and is on a killing spree. This book, I read it in 3 days. It was a solid read. I found it really gripping by the end. Probably my favorite ending by Stephen King so far throughout my journey. And while I think the first half of the book is relatively slow, the payoff is absolutely amazing. Stephen King definitely makes you work for a very satisfying and dark ending. When we think of Stephen King, we think about horror, we think about suspense, and this book delivered. The suspense I felt for a specific scene in this book where Cujo was about to start killing shit, I was literally on the edge of my seat. I felt it. I was cheering on Cujo. A great anti-hero and just a memorable book in my eyes. Number 4 on the list again is Stephen King. There's going to be a theme to this, The Long Walk. This book centers around 100 kids who try to walk themselves to the grand prize of anything they want in the world. All they gotta do is walk, and if they stop, they get shot. This book here is dark as fuck. I didn't feel good reading it because it just felt depressing, but with that, it's left a memorable imprint in my brain every time I walk or anytime I go for a run. And it's got a movie. It just came out this year. Check it out. And yeah, you'll understand how Stephen King has a mean streak in this book, and he spares no expense killing off kids. It's quite scarring, I'm not gonna lie. Number 3 on this list is, of course, Stephen King's Salem's Lot. This book centers around Jerusalem's Lot and the impending vampire plague that has descended upon this New England town. This is Stephen King's rendition of Dracula, and the world building that we have in Jerusalem's Lot, how there's so many different characters, is very interesting. Very bold for his second book that he published under Stephen King's name. And the payoff is great. Reading a book about vampires around Halloween time is a fantastic time to read this book. You have to read this as this is staple Stephen King, and it has some very, very good horror scenes, creepy scenes, that is going to stick around in your brain, in your memory, way after you finish this book. Fantastic story, fantastic writing, fantastic character work in this book. If you haven't read Salem's Lot yet, I absolutely recommend it. Fantastic read. You will not be disappointed. Number 2 on the list is Stephen King's Misery. This deals with a writer named Paul Sheldon who gets into a car accident, gets saved by his biggest fan in the world, Annie Wilkes, and he's recovering in her guest room. But something's off. He is not allowed to escape, and if he tries to, Annie Wilkes has a couple surprises under her sleeve. This was my first Stephen King book I read this year. I read it around July, and wow. What an absolute start to my journey in Stephen King, and Misery delivers. It is so impressive that Stephen King is able to write a book with just mainly 2 characters and 1 setting and make it so dynamic, so interesting, so suspenseful, and so bloody. It is fantastic. If you've never read a Stephen King book, I highly recommend this be your first read. It could be Salem's Lot as well, but honestly, this one I think will appeal to a lot more. And it's actually shorter than Salem's Lot. So if you want a fast-paced, bloody, action-packed, psychological thriller, Misery delivers like no other. I have nothing bad to say about this book. It's almost a 5-star book in my mind. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. It could be a 9 on 10. It deserves a 4.5 stars. It is such a fantastic story. It could easily be #1 on the list. However, #1 has a special part in my heart for emotions, but this book here is just insane. I laughed throughout it, just reading some scenes that I just couldn't believe someone wrote about, and just gasped in others. A fantastic read, absolute must if you're looking to read some of Stephen King's best hits. And the #1 book I read this year was Needful Things by Stephen King. Absolutely amazing. This book revolves around Stephen King's town of Castle Rock, and a new shop has opened selling some very unique items. Think something like a antique store. But the owner is very mysterious. He is planning tricks and pranks on people, and he's trying to cause absolute chaos in Castle Rock. You will gasp, you will cheer, you will laugh, and you will just be in awe into this book here. Stephen King wrote an absolute amazing story in here. And while it is not a perfect book, it's not a 5-star in my opinion, it is certainly a 9 on 10, a 4.5 star read. The journey that you go through in this book is sensational, all right? I have never felt so many different emotions in a book. And while this is a chonker, 250,000 words, there and about, I would certainly read it again down the line, if I wanted to. The story's still very fresh in my brain, so I won't be doing it anytime soon, but this certainly is just an absolute amazing book. Maybe it's a sleeper pick in terms of Stephen King's catalog, because Needful Things does get overshadowed by it, The Shining, and Salem's Lot, but do not sleep on this book. One recommendation I will make for Needful Things, if you are persuaded to read this book, is read the other books chronologically that deal with Castle Rock, because they will give you a lot more depth, context, and nuance for the characters, Castle Rock as the town, and it will make the reading experience so much better. There's amazing Easter eggs in here, and I'm sure I didn't find all of them because, as we know, Stephen King does a whole multiverse thing and connects many various stories into each other. But wow. For example, the movie Stand By Me, the book, the original novella, The Body, has a character in this book that plays a very important role. So again, you're thinking about, oh wow, Stand By Me, that was a great coming of age book. There's a character in here that is super important to the story, and you're gonna be like, wow, that's cool. So that is why you need to read the other Castle Rock stories. I don't want to go too far in depth into this because I've already made 2 standalone videos for Needful Things. But absolutely read this book if you have the opportunity to. It is fantastic. So if you made it this far in a video, I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you for everyone who has watched this video or watched other videos. It's been a fun ride so far, and if you want to showcase and highlight your top 5 books or your memorable books of the year, drop them down in the comments below. If you enjoyed watching the video, please like it. If you really like the video, please consider subscribing. It means a lot. We're always talking about Stephen King, as you can imagine, and larger reading topics in general. So, thank you very much. Happy New Year.